All right, fair warning, trigger warning. This is going to offend a lot of people, most people in the preparedness community. This is going to offend you. And again, this video, like my last video, is going to fly in direct contradiction to what you're being told by preparedness influencers in the circle. Okay, so again, these are not my opinions. These are the facts. I have to see the world for how it is, not how I want it to be. And trust me, there are many things I want to be different, but I don't have that luxury. I'm going to present to you the facts as they are. I'm going to show you the world for reality and not for how I want it to be, but for how it actually is. And holding to those premises, we're going to talk about, is it too late for grocery store preppers? And let me just first say that this is not supposed to be a condescending message at all. I shop at the grocery store. I'm somebody that shops at the grocery store. But what it really comes down to is less about where you shop and more about the dependability and sustainability of your lifestyle and what you are able to do, both within a market system and outside of that market system. And I think that there are certain truths that we have to be aware of. And like I ended my last video, I'm going to start this video with, if you already get your food, if you get your food from the grocery store, it is already registered. So with this in mind, let's get started. So it's important to realize when we talk about grocery store prices, especially prices of food, they're important, but we have to realize that these prices are all after the fact. You know, and many of you guys know I'm not an advocate or stockpiling or hoarding food as a primary food contingency, and the few of the reasons for that is you have fewer dollars chasing more expensive food every year, in many and most respects seasonally. And then we even see that, for example, sale food prices today are generally more expensive than normal prices a year ago. And so when we look at this, you know, pragmatically, we have to realize that, and I don't understand how people don't realize it now, but food that you buy at the grocery store is so disconnected from the source. It's unreal. I mean, there are many steps, 10 to 15 steps in between where that seed was put into the ground to where it arrives, you know, packaged in plastic on styrofoam in your grocery store. And so there's so many steps along the way. And with each one of those steps, there's more taxes, there's more, you know, there's another couple cents put down on that product that makes it more expensive every step of the way. And so essentially, by the time the food gets to the grocery store, it has been through so many steps and processes that there's been so much money added to it that you're really doing yourself, we're all doing ourselves a disservice if we're being realistic here. And so, you know, I really do appreciate, I've been watching a lot of prepper channels that are going in and they're called hauls, food hauls. They go to the grocery store, Walmart's, Costco, Sam's Club, Aldi's, wherever they go, and they're looking at prices of food and they're reporting the prices of food and they're reporting trends. And again, that's all fine and dandy, but you're essentially, what they don't realize is you're using already burnt information. Right? Because we know, and we'll talk about this as we go on in the video, we already know what the commodity prices are going to be. We already know, especially what commodity prices of certain food are going to go up drastically today. We know what those food prices are going to look like a year from now. We know we can expect a certain hike in certain food commodities. And this is not because I'm, you know, somehow can see the future. It's just because I understand and I look at agricultural news. Like, I know exactly what's going to happen with food prices in a year with some pretty good certainty and accuracy. And so this is no surprise. But unfortunately, if you are only looking at this through the lens of grocery store prices, you're really doing yourself a disservice. Because again, you're using what I would consider, you're using expired information. That information has been burnt for a guy like me who looks at these commodity prices. That information was burnt a year ago. We knew those prices were gonna increase, and realistically, you should have bought those commodity prices a year ago. We should have bought those commodity products a year ago, and so that's really the first part of this. Everything you see at the grocery store has already been manufactured, and it's already been the prices have already been subjugated by numerous market forces, and so you're just basically getting the tail end of what the greedy people on the top want you to pay. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. You're playing in a flawed market with, again, expired information. And so I think that's super unfortunate, personally. But that's one thing we have to realize when we look at this from the grocery store perspective. So when we look at commodity prices, right, we can foresee what commodity prices will be in the future. We can determine if something's going to go up significantly by paying attention to what's going on in the agricultural sector right now. So a great example of this, right? I was warning people about eggs 18 months ago. I'll post I'll post that video in the comment section, in the description box below. But I was talking about eggs 18 months ago. I put out a video how to get free eggs, right? And so we knew, for those of us that were watching the agricultural sector, we knew this was going to happen. And to act like this is a surprise, or act like we didn't know this was going to happen, or to act like we had no idea this was going to happen, is so far removed from reality that it really, it almost hurts. It almost hurts, because you can tell somebody, hey, these are things that we need to be, we need to watch out for. And then, they'll completely ignore it. They'll say you're crazy. And then these same influencers will put out these videos about doing, their Walmart haul. And they're like, oh my gosh, can you look at eggs? Do you believe how much it is? What's going on? It's like, dude, we told you about that 18 months ago. But I get it. It doesn't go forth to produce good clicks and this and that, because most people, let's be honest, they don't care. They don't care to forecast what's going to happen a year from now. They only want to forecast what's happening right now. And so again, when you get into this OODA loop of information where you only care about the here and now, you don't care about the past, you don't care about the future, yeah, you're always going to be in a perpetual place of paranoia, and just perpetual places of unsustainability and inefficiency, really. And so again, we knew this was gonna happen 18 months ago. When we look at companies like Cal-Maine Foods, right, Roseacre Farms, Hillendale Farms, they've all stated, right, that their higher prices are due for eggs are due to inflation, cost of feed inputs, and the avian flu that has impacted approximately 43 million egg-laying chickens nationwide, apparently, allegedly. However, for example, Cal-Maine reported 600% profit margins in 2021, and so far this year they've reported 65% profit margins just for 2023 alone, and they have not had a single avian flu incident. So while inflation numbers are up and food cost input have gone up 23%, it doesn't add up. So if you're saying your food inputs have gone up, if we know your food inputs have gone up 23%, but you're still recording profit margins at 600%, sorry, the math doesn't add up. And so again, those of us that are watching the agricultural sector, those of us that live in agriculture, we knew this was going to happen. I mean, again, this is no surprise, and I don't know why people are acting surprised. I have no idea. So what does the solution-based preparedness item look like from here, from this perspective, right? So if you know eggs are going to go up, right, and, we're looking at a forecasting of, hey, let's say this was 18 months ago when I made that video, right? And you wanted to do something actionable about it. Okay, so what can I do now to start locally sourcing eggs? Are there any backyard chickens people that I can start buying eggs from? Can I build and form a relationship? Because I would like to be able to continue paying, $3 for a dozen eggs. So if I can find somebody locally that I trust, and I can start doing that, that's one option. That's one way you can do it without getting involved, and still using money and still doing things the way you want to do it, using the currency, the fiat currency in hand. That's number one. Number two, you go out there and be like, hey, I'm going to try some community-based initiatives, right? Start getting at ways I can barter or trade for these eggs, like I mentioned in the video, right? Great. That's another avenue. It doesn't cost you anything. Third, you can just get your own chickens and produce your own eggs. So there are options, right? There are options if you still kind of want to play in the fiat currency system, if you don't want to play in the fiat currency system, and if you want to do it completely sustainably. There are options. So that is a solution-based way to look at it. The non-solution-based way to look at it is what 99% of people did, and said, hey, this guy is saying egg prices are going to go up. Here are all the facts to show egg prices are going to go up, but I'll wait till they go up to actually even think about it, and then I'll make a video about it and I'll complain. But majority of people do. Anyway, so when we're talking about commodity food prices, we can absolutely see that they're going to go up. And we absolutely know they're going to go up based upon the commodity indicators that we're currently seeing now. And so what we have to realize is, whether we like it or not, there are systems in play in capitalism, right? That's why I always say get capitalism out of food. And people misinterpret what I mean by that. But there are things in capitalism that happen that are going to be outside your control. So by the time that food gets into the grocery store, the prices have been so far inflated, they've been so far manipulated that you're playing in a losing game. You're playing in a game where the winner has already been established. So let's talk more about that. So when it comes to winners and losers as it relates to the grocery store, we have to realize that there are many factors that come into play when we're talking about why food prices are going up. And so many of the common things that you're going to hear is you're constantly going to hear, inflation. Okay, great. You're going to hear about drought, fertilizer shortages. You're going to hear about there being less farmers. You're going to hear about so many different other aggregate reasons, government subsidies, government paying farmers to not farm, right? So you have all these reasons for why produce, buy the food at the grocery store is more expensive. But what we fail to realize is that there is a market force happening here. There is capitalism at play, and until we realize the nuances of that capitalism, you're going to continue to be in a losing. You're going to continue to be in a losing game you don't even know has already been won. And so one of those things is price fixing. And I know a lot of you guys are going to say, well, price fixing is illegal. I know. No shit, Sherlock Holmes. If we look at, let's take a look at February 2022. It was revealed that meat packing giant JBS agreed to pay $52.5 million settlement for beef price fixing lawsuit. Then again, September 2022, it was revealed that JBS again had to pay another $20 million lawsuit for inflating the prices of pork. Previously, within the last couple of years, we've seen them pay out to catering companies $12.75 million. We've seen Smithfield Foods pay out $83 million to pork purchasers, and then we've seen them also pay out $42 million in respective settlements regarding that case with other people. Again, this is just within the last year. So you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars are being shelled out by these corporations for illegal activity, right? And who's paying for that illegal activity? We all are. All of us that shop at the grocery store are paying for that illegal activity. The only reason why they have hundreds of millions of dollars to settle lawsuits is because those are the profit margins they're making off the items that they sell you. What does that tell you? If that doesn't answer the majority of your food questions regarding the price, I don't know what will. Because again, you're literally paying, when you go to the grocery store, you're literally paying a corporation money for you to lose. That's what you're literally doing. You're literally it's like you showing up to a game, whether it's a football game, soccer game, or basketball game, with the winner already having won, and then you getting on the field and playing, thinking that you're actually playing for a prize. Or do you actually think that there is a chance for you to win when the game's already been won? The game's already been won. And what they're doing is they're charging more and more every year to play the game that's already been won. The game's already over, but here you are. That's literally the situation we find ourselves in. And it blows my mind that more people don't get this and understand this. So even if you are looking for the best prices at the grocery store right now, you go in there with all your algorithms and you're looking at the sales or you're looking at everything, you have to realize that those prices have already been set. The corporations, the conglomerates have already price fixed everything. Everybody's got their cut up into that point. You're playing, again, a game that's already been won with expired information. And it's really sad, It's heartbreaking sad, because I know there's people out there that are hurting. I know there's people out there that are being affected by food insecurity. This is actively happening every day in this country, and it breaks my heart. And I wish that more people understood why prices of food were so expensive. I wish people understood that we do know what prices of food are going to go up a year before they're going to happen. I wish people did take agricultural news and commodities seriously. But I guess we have not reached, unfortunately, that pain threshold for people to actually care yet. It's clear and evident that there's not enough pain being felt yet for people to actually look at these commodities and take these commodities seriously. Not yet. I think it will. I think people will finally get fed up and people will understand. But until then, I think that the pain is going to continue to rise. So now let's look at the governmental fix. And in my opinion, I think the governmental fix is actually worse than the problem. But let's take a look. So when we look at the governmental fix, we can see that meat prices were the single largest contributor in November to the rising cost of food. And the American people are really paying for it. So this administration, Biden administration, said that in order to help cover the increase of costs of meat prices, beef, pork, poultry prices, Biden administration is going to unveil $1 billion plan to increase meat packing competition and lower consumer prices. So the reason why they are taking this avenue is because a lot of people don't realize is the majority, all the big meat packers are owned by the big four. So the big four processing companies are Tyson, JBS, Cargill, and Marfrig. They own 85% of feedlot cattle in the United States of America, and so the majority of the processing plants are owned by them. So essentially, you have three companies, three corporations that own 85% of the agribusiness, if you want to say, especially when it comes to beef. And so since they own the processing plants, they can determine how fast things are processed. So by determining how fast things are processed, right, they can coordinate with each other to artificially manipulate prices, right? Because it's a supply and demand. They are so big, they are able to decide their own supply and demand. They are able to manipulate supply and demand. Pretty incredible. Again, that's capitalism, not how I feel about the situation. That's just the reality of the situation. That is capitalism at its finest, and they are using capitalism to the best of their ability, and they're doing a great job as far as profit margins go. And so, when you restrict contracts, so how they're doing it, right? So they're engaging in what's called anti-competitive business practices, aka capitalism. So by decreasing the live cattle prices through restrictive contracts and artificially restricted supply, and by slowing down slaughterhouse production, they can simultaneously increase prices and get record profit margins, because again, they're controlling their own supply and demand. So the idea is that if the Biden administration gives out $1 billion to smaller processing plants to be able to process more, that's somehow going to make a big difference in the overall scheme of things. What they don't realize is, again, the contracts that they have with, owning 85% of all feedlot cattle, and then they have to realize that the artificial restricted supply, because again, these four companies own 85% of the market. So the solution is really gonna actually hurt. It's actually gonna hurt the business owners, because as you can already see, and I'll leave a link in the description box below, there are already things going to play. There are already laws that are bills that they're trying to pass, I should say, to restrict smaller cattle producers by basically saying, hey, you can use this third-party processor, but you have to have a minimum of how many cattle that you're processing. Well, that just destroys the small farmer then in and of itself, right? And so it's a bad idea when the big four think that it's a great idea that they're doing this. And the reason for that is because once these smaller processors start failing, what's the big corporation going to do? They're going to buy them up. And so the Biden administration is basically giving the money to these smaller companies to build infrastructure that these big companies are going to be able to then buy for pennies on the dollar, which they have historically done. This is what they've historically done. So, okay, there's that. So what is the solution? Let's talk about what our solutions are. So, realistically, this isn't for everybody, because everybody's going to do what they're going to do. But for those interested in solution-based preparedness and interested in solutions, you're going to have to look at solutions outside the current market infrastructure, right? Growing your own food, local producers, local sourcing of food items and other agricultural commodities. I think Bill Mollison said it the best. The greatest change we need to make is from consumption to production, even on a small scale in our own gardens. If only 10% of us do this, there's enough for everyone. Hence the futility of revolutionaries who have no gardens, who depend on the very system they attack and produce words and bullets, not food and shelter. I think that's probably one of the most amazing quotes I've ever heard, and I love quoting it. And we have to realize that if you have no desire, so let's talk about if you have no desire to source your food outside the grocery store, at least purchase the items that you know are going to increase dramatically. And all the indicators are there, and we know what prices are going to be hit the hardest. If you look at CEOs like Bob Unanu, I don't know, the Goya CEO, he said, "We are on the precipice of a global food crisis. The world has weaponized food." So, again, this is experts in the field. This is somebody who has everything to gain by corporatism and capitalism. He's telling you himself, one of the wealthiest people in the world is telling you, food's being weaponized, and it's going to get bad out there. And again, if you have no desire to source locally, if you have no desire to do anything but shop at the grocery store, fine. I'm not going to encourage you not to. My whole point of this video is just bring you the facts and bring you the nuance that you're not going to get anywhere else, right? These conversations we have on this channel, you're not going to hear anybody else. Nobody's going to talk about it. Because again, it will hurt their bottom line as a preparedness influencer. Me, I just care about the truth. So the truth is, if you're going to continue to shop at the grocery store, and the grocery store is going to be your number one food outlet, your number one source for food, that is your primary contingency plan, then I highly encourage you. We know the commodities are going to be expensive come a couple months, come a year out. So if you really care, you're going to buy those items now, knowing that those prices are going to shoot up in the future. And again, the idea that we don't know what commodities are going to do is ridiculous. People are talking about it now. You're just not in the right circles to hear it, right? We know where farmers are hurting right now. We know what commodities are in high demand but don't have a high yield this year. We already know. The news is, it's out there. It's open source. People just refuse to look at it. So again, we know what's going to happen. So again, I encourage you, if you're going to still shop at the grocery store, at least shop for the things that you know are going to go up in price. Again, we know, for example, the Cattlemen Association for Oklahoma has already said that they're expecting beef prices to go up dramatically. They're predicting, even with certain cuts, up to $50 a pound. I'm not saying it's going to be that high, but we know for many reasons why beef prices are going up, right? We understand there was a big cold this year. We understand that 85% of it's controlled by the top four. We understand that a lot of producers are being shoved out. We understand that as of this year, there's barely over 2,000 ranchers left in the United States of America. I think the last count I saw was 2,100, and there's millions and millions of people in the United States. So again, we have all the indicators. We know it's going to happen. Now, I say this because I know, come a couple of months, a year from now, when beef prices are through the roof, everyone's going to act surprised. Well, here you go. It's all there. All the commodities are there. We know what prices are going to, we know what's going to happen. So again, you can act surprised, but I just think it's funny, right? Whenever I see these YouTube videos where they're just showing food hall prices and they're acting all surprised, it's like, I don't know where you guys have been. I don't know what news you guys watch, but I don't even know why you guys are surprised. So it's an unfortunate truth, but that's where we have it. Again, if you're buying at the grocery store, which we all do, just realize that, if it's your primary food contingency plan, you should probably do a little bit more. You should probably be doing some research now for the future. And for everybody else, remember, there are solution-based preparedness items for everything. It's not worth your time. It's not worth my time. Why play in a system that has all the aforementioned corruption, all the aforementioned issues, that has already chose winners and already has winners before you get to the grocery store? Before every product arrives at the grocery store, there's already been a winner. There you have it. And remember, every food item you buy at the grocery store has already been registered. Or there you have it. This video is helpful for you guys. If you guys have any questions, comments, leave in the comment section below. If you completely disagree with me, please articulate yourself in the comment section below. As always, guys, long live the Republic. Remember, all my sources are in the description box below. Long live the Republic, everybody.